In the midst of the field, that's where the bodies were found. They were nailed to a stick of wood and used as scarecrows, but not before their bones and organs were removed and replaced with straw.
Is the story true? Jonas asked.
Of course not, my boy,
Hicks replied, laughing his way into the kitchen. Hicks was a 60-year-old man who had lived across from the fields his whole entire life. Jonas was a young 17-year-old male who was hitchhiking along the road that sits just outside Hicks' home. Hicks felt bad for the boy, so he allowed him to stay in the spare bedroom of his home, in exchange for work around the farm. He had only been there for 4 days, and everything was well. There was something about the fields that gave Jonas the creeps. It was the way the crops swayed inconsistently with the wind. It was the smell that would linger across the fields and make its way towards the house. But most of all, it was the story Hicks kept telling him about the fields. Every night, before he'd go to sleep, Jonas would take a peek at the fields. He'd never see anything other than crows, but one night he saw something else. It fled across the fields and disappeared into the distance. He didn't get a desirable sighting of the thing, and that's what scared him the most. The only thing he saw was a dark shadow. He didn't look away even after the thing had already disappeared. He kept his eyes gazed out on the field. He thought about what Hicks had told him. Dying is not exactly what most people are afraid of. It's the fear of the unknown. Nobody knows what comes after death, so they fear dying in every way possible. In this situation, Jonas was fearing the unknown. If he had gotten a more desirable glimpse at the thing, he'd know what it was. The fact that something was out there and he had no idea what it was, that's what scared him the most. The next morning, Hicks and Jonas were both distressed to find some of the crops in the field to be destroyed. Thinking about what he saw the night before, Jonas was convinced he knew what had destroyed the crops. He had informed Hicks about what he saw.
It's the damn crows,
Hicks said, ignoring Jonas had told him.
It's always the damn crows.
The hours went by, slowly but surely. Jonas had just finished up the work in the barn, was heading out towards the house, when he heard something shuffling through the fields. He was curious, but yet afraid of the unknown. He walked cautiously into the dark fields, the moon being his only source of light. He had a pitchfork in his hand, and held the pitchfork in a defensive position as he shuffled towards the fields. He heard something. He knew it was out there. Even when he was standing completely still, he heard something moving through the fields. He heard it snickering. He heard it breathing. There was something out there, but he couldn't see it, and that's what scared him the most. Fear of the unknown. As Jonas stood in the center of the fields, he realized he was lost. He smelled something deadly. He shuffled through the fields a bit more, and that's when he found it. Not the thing, not what haunts the fields, but he found a man nailed to a piece of wood, as the straw hung out from his gut. Oh, his skin was dissected, and the bottom portions of his legs were removed, just above the knee. He thought he heard him breathing, but no, the man's been dead for over a month. He heard something else. He looked to his right, and that's when he saw it. Not waiting for a second, he took off running. He ran through the fields, not even worrying about the fact he was lost. All he could think about was what he saw. Despite the fact he had seen it, he still didn't know what it was. Fear of the unknown. He kept running, shuffling through the fields as horrified as he could be, till he ran into Hicks, who'd gone out to look for him. He followed him back into the house and explained everything to Hicks that he had seen. "He's out there," he yelled. "I've seen him."
Calm the hell down, boy,
Hicks yelled. Jonas had become silent, but still shaking from fear.
What haunts the fields is not a he, it's not a who, it's not a what. It's an it. It's a thing.
"It killed a man," Jonas said. "It's out there and we have to call the police."
"There's nothing no police can do," Hicks said. "We'll be safe, just as long as we stay from the fields at night."
"What does it want?"
"It's the damn crows," Hicks replied. "It's always the damn crows."
Jonas went to bed that night, unable to sleep with the haunting images of what he saw earlier that night in his mind. He spent most of the night glancing out the window, fearing what haunts the fields is still out there. It wasn't until he began dozing off that he saw it again. Its beaming red eyes could have been from miles away, but it was much closer than that. It was standing near Hicks' tractor, staring into the fearful eyes of Jonas before it fled into the fields and disappeared. The next day, Jonas could not get the images of the night before off his mind. From the dead man to the beaming red eyes of the thing, he was being haunted by the images. When the night rolled around, Jonas was sure to get back inside the house before sundown. He was all alone that night. Hicks had left hours before for a supply run, just a few hours before sundown. A scream had echoed from the fields. It was a woman. Jonas thought about it, and thought hard. He decided that it wasn't right for him to just stand there and listen as a woman screamed for her life. He grabbed a shotgun belonging to Hicks, not even sure how to use it. He ran out of the house, into the fields, screaming out for the woman. She was no longer screaming, hadn't screamed in minutes. He got to the centre of the fields, and that's when he saw her. She was nailed to a stick, straw hanging out of her gut. The bottom portions of her legs were removed, and also filled with straw. He thought that she was breathing, but no, she was dead, and again it was the thing. With its beaming red eyes staring back at him, Jonas took off running, able to find the house minutes later. He ran inside and locked every door and every window. It was coming after him, and he knew it. Eventually, everything had become silent. The only thing he could hear was the beating of his own heart. There was a knock at the door, and his heart was getting louder. Another knock, and his heart was getting louder. Again, another knock, and his heart was getting louder. He knew that it could have been Hicks, but he also knew it had to have been the thing. His chest was getting tighter as he took a deep breath. The fear was growing more intense as he didn't know what was outside of the door. Fear of the unknown. He walked slowly to the door, dragging his feet as he got closer and closer. He looked through the peephole, but all he could see was bright red. It blinded him for a few seconds, but he knew what it was, because he had stared into that red a few times before. He ran from the door, unsure what to do. He hid inside his bedroom closet. Everything was quiet for a few minutes. The only thing he could hear was his own breathing. When the front door creaked open, the fear got more intense, and his chest even tighter. He tried with everything he had not to make even the smallest sound. The sound of footsteps wandered through the home and made its way towards Jonas. They were getting closer and closer they got, the louder his heartbeat would sound. His bedroom door creaked open. Whatever or whoever it was in his room. Its breathing, he could hear its breathing, as it was louder than it had been before. The closet door creaked open, and Jonas was certain that he was going to be nailed to a stick and displayed as a scarecrow. However, it was Hicks who stood before him.
"What you doing, boy?"
he yelled, taking the gun from Jonas. "It was here," Jonas said. "It was outside the door." Hicks shook his head as he was snickering, a sound so familiar to Jonas.
"You've got it all wrong, my boy," he said. "You see, I left out a very important part about what haunts the fields."
He got closer as Jonas backed up against the wall.
"It doesn't just kill anyone. It picks up hitchhikers and takes them to his home where it tells them stories about the fields."
His eyes became a bright beaming red.
"Do you know what it does to them next?"
"No," Jonas cried.
"It guts them and stuffs them with straw, then nails them to the stick in the fields," he said. "Do you know why it does that?"
"No," he cried again.
"It's the damn crows," he said. "It's always the damn crows."